that he has done in this area. All right, thank you very much, Dr. Dilip. Times to you.
All right, okay. So, me, just wanted to see how many of you are from the industry. You know, if I can have a show of hands, or maybe you know, you can say, you can write in the messages. Anybody from is there anybody from the agencies or working in the advertising industry currently? Anybody? So I just so I have an idea of the audience. Anybody? Nobody from the advertising industry? Okay, okay. You are a free. We got one freelance videographer. All right. Okay. So we can start. So I thank you for joining us, and today we'll be talking about lessons in branding and advertising during. Okay, wait, sorry, I got a few issues here. Let me just try to solve this. It was working perfectly, but it's got some issues now. Okay. All right, can you see my screen?
Yep, we can.
All right, thank you very much. So thank you, Wenli. So today's presentation outline will be like this. So we'll have a brief introduction. I'll provide some industry data, you know, what's been going on, and we'll talk about selling COVID-19, what can go wrong, and some recommendations going forward. And I don't like to end on a negative note, so we'll try to end on a positive note, and finally the closing remarks. Hopefully we'll end by 8, and then we'll have a short Q&A session after that. All right. So if there's any questions, please you just can just leave a message, and I can I mean, I'll check from time to time if anybody has any questions, so I can, or you need further explanation. All right. So without further ado, let me straight away start. So these are some advertisements that appeared during the early stages of the COVID-19, when we had the MCO. On the top, of course, I'm sure all of you will recognize this, is by Nike. If you have ever dreamt of playing for millions around the world, now's your chance. Play inside, play for the world. So they are encouraging people to stay inside, staying inside the house, but they are taking the opportunity to advertise the brand as well. But what do you think of the two ads below? One is by Volkswagen and the another is by Audi. Anybody? Below. Any thoughts on the ads by Volkswagen, another by Audi? They're quite simple, yes. They get the message across, and the thing is that they are trying to show they are also social distancing, encouraging people to social distance, and this was quite unique in the sense that from a marketing perspective, when we talk about brands, you don't touch logos, you don't touch your symbol or your brand symbol, which is your logo, and it was curious for me because I found this very interesting that they were willing to change it. And if you even try to create a logo similar to a well-known brand, don't be surprised if you get chased for by the lawyers. Still their brand identity. All right. So this was quite curious for me and quite interesting that these companies, these brands, they willingly change their logos just to encourage or just to show their support, for for people around the world by trying to show that they are, so trying to promote social distancing, right? All right. So this was one of the interesting observations due. So I was approached by a journalist from Free Malaysia today, and he started out by saying, talking about a advertisement by a leading golf glove manufacturer promoting the practice of shaking hands with gloves. The advertisement was soon taken off because after that, we had lot not safe, and in fact, it's not safe to actually use gloves because that might actually spread the COVID-19. So it started off from there. So I gave my written answers to his questions, and but later on I found out that they Free Malaysia Today didn't carry the article. But that led me thinking, and that and I thought of doing further research, and in fact I'm writing a paper right now on this. And so if they didn't write the article, it doesn't matter. It gave me impetus to actually do some research on this, and looking at where some of the consumers reactions to various advertisements and promotion activities during this time, right? So most of the time you'll see in the news is like the policy makers. You will also hear from the marketers, but very little about from the consumer's point of view. And this is where I wanted to fill this gap in what should I say, the information that was available at what consumers were thinking. And this is where I started to do a bit of research. So before we talk about that, I just wanted to show you some industry data, and this was from Nielsen Malaysia. They pointed out that advertising expenditure across all media stood at ringgit Malaysia 1.1 billion for the first quarter of this year. On a year-to-year basis, all the traditional media segments fell by about 9% overall. Of this, newspaper ad spend and cinema ad spend were the worst. So the newspaper ad spending fell by about 24%, and cinema ad spending fell by about 25%. A kind of unassuming beginning. From January to May, it took off. The digital ad spend actually exceeded 430 million, accounting for more than a fifth of the total media ad spend. By the way, this is the Malaysian overview. So I've looked at a few data from other countries, and more or less similar. And you can see the traditional media segments, the advertising in TV, for example, on let's say on newspapers, all fell, but digital media did actually particularly well. Okay, so this is some industry data. So not very good. So like all the other industry, the advertising industry was hit quite bad, and the only bright spot we can say conclude is the digital advertising sector. So as marketers, you will see that marketers come rain, come something. So as salesmen, the COVID-19 was a disaster, of course, yes, for all of us, but some saw it as an opportunity. So using COVID-19 to sell. So what exactly can go wrong, right? So this was, well, what could go wrong went wrong. And the major reactions from the consumers, I found out, this is not a really scientific survey, and it is just a preliminary finding. So I'm still working on it. But so what I found out was that we had a lot of misleading advertisements. Next was people saw companies using COVID-19 as a selling point as hypocritical, and in maybe a combination of the above. So we look at different case studies of each to highlight, misleading, hypocritical, inappropriate as from the as perceived by the consumers. Okay, so let's look at the first one, misleading claims. And I'm sure you must have come across some of this. So in the early days of the COVID-19, during January, February, March, we were flooded with air purifier advertisements, and some of them like blatantly used COVID-19. This is an ad from a Facebook I saved at the time, and this is I call Ideal. I have no idea. I've not seen it. I've not used it as well. So Ideal air purifiers help in the fight against COVID-19. Most of these advertisements had claimed that they could kill the coronavirus, COVID-19, but unfortunately, many countries started to take note because they were making a killing selling air purifiers, right? So in fact, in the US, the Environment Protection Agency announced that companies may face legal actions with high penalties. And soon after this announcement happened, I saw that a lot of companies quickly took off their COVID-19 advertisements. A lot of companies actually stopped using COVID-19, in fact, the term COVID-19 in their advertisement. So misleading claims. It's not just air purifiers. There were, this, what do you call it, hand sanitizers claiming that they can cure you. In fact, there was I think there were a number of advertisements targeting consumers on I think on Facebook as well as on other social media, saying that there was there were things you could wear which would actually generate some kind of gas that would kill COVID-19. Consumers, and of course, many were duped, I would say, to buy these products. If you can, if you have come across any advertisement like this, please do share. And of course, this is another one, and the name is like very strange, Final Fantasy, and this was in one of I think it's from either from Shopee or Lazada. So this is a sanitizer spray, and it says that it has a certificate approved by Ministry of Health Malaysia. I'm really doubtful, whether they really got this certificate. It says that it's highly recommended avoidance on coronavirus, grammatically not correct as well. So they are asking us, they showed you can use it to spray hands, spray clothes, and even spray on shoes to kill the coronavirus. So we had a plethora of products, claiming to either kill or protect you from this COVID-19. So of view, if you look at it, and this would be considered unethical advertising. So which is you can face legal action for making misleading claims. Right. Okay, let's move on next. Another one was the case of ads which were perceived as hypocritical, and a perfect example would be McDonald's Brazil. So they, like Audi and like Volkswagen, the advertisement I showed earlier, they decided to separate the famous golden arches as in an act of solidarity with coronavirus sufferers, and to show that they support social distancing. However, they suddenly came under attack because they were perceived to be hypocritical, where their staff were not given leave. People, in fact, people who were sick and all, they had to take leave without pay. And even Bernie Sanders, the US, even tweeted and saying that McDonald's give your workers paid sick leave, and this was a perfect example of where companies were being seen as hypocritical. On one hand, trying to show that they are, they're doing corporate social responsibility by promoting social distancing, at the same time not taking care of their own staff. Right. So this is just one example. I can give you a number of examples in Malaysia. Does anybody have any examples you would like to share? Please, you can just show your hands. So if you have any examples you can share, that's please feel free to share with us. All right. So another one was simply inappropriate. So I think many companies, they usually do, they have their campaigns planned out for the next year. So these Olympics. So they had everything planned out for the Tokyo Olympics, but unfortunately, the Tokyo Olympics was postponed to 2021. But they went ahead. After it was announced that the Tokyo Olympics was cancelled or postponed, they launched the Tokyo Olympics theme campaign. So I would like to know, what do you think? This is my personal view. I think that was simply inappropriate. It was not right. But I talked to a few of my colleagues, and they thought that it was okay, because they had the ads ready, and if they were not going to use it, they would lose that, they would lose all the money that they had spent. So they might as well go ahead with it. But I felt it was quite inappropriate because there is no Olympics, and I think there was some criticism on social media as well. And as a result, you will see that if you see the latest advertisements from Visa, they will say they have mentioned that it will be the Olympics will be next year. So what do you think? Anybody? What do you think about this? Do you think it's inappropriate, or do you think that it's right? It was right for Visa to go ahead with this? Anybody?
No, it wasn't.
Anita, yes?
No, it wasn't.
Why? Why do you think it's inappropriate?
I think it's inappropriate because it didn't happen. It was a particularly dangerous time.
Yeah.
Maybe they should not put a year there. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been better. Instead of Team Visa Tokyo 2020, it could have been just Team Visa Tokyo.
Yeah.
In the sense that 2020 is a year that is not going to be remembered for the best of things.
Yeah. And the thing is that, they launched their campaign. So that kind of, kind of made me think, it's like, was it appropriate? So that's, like I mentioned, this is just my personal viewpoint, and I'm not really sure, but I agree with you. I think it was inappropriate. It is. And does it have the intended effect? The reason we put up advertisement is to create a kind of affinity with the brand, to create solidarity with the brand, or to have a to get people aware of the events, for example, and that they are sponsored of the Olympics. But were any of these aims fulfilled by the advertisement? And I seriously doubt it. Okay, so that was the three cases where we had. One was misleading ads. Then another one was where people simply felt that companies were.
Dilip, I think there's a problem with your connection. You're constantly freezing. I'm not sure if there's anything you can do to sort that.
All right. So yeah, let me see whether I turn my camera off.
Yes. Let's see if this helps.
Yeah. Let me see that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So there are I have some recommendations going forward. So this is very interesting, and not everybody will agree with this. as I mentioned before, for marketers, every opportunity is an opportunity to sell. But people are already disagreeing with the kind of idea of marketing, and and the difference between selling and marketing, right? So sales is like, you take any opportunity to sell, and even COVID-19 is an opportunity to sell, but take into account what Alex Josephson and Amir Lamb of Twitter reminded companies that this is not a marketing opportunity to capitalize on. COVID-19 was an anomaly. It's a pandemic. And it's not a marketing opportunity to capitalize on. If you're trying to capitalize on that, it is most likely that the consumers might not take might not take a positive perception of that. Right? It's not a marketing opportunity, and they said we do not recommend that brands opportunistically link themselves to a health scare. So this is from their their blog, from their website, and talking about the market about other companies using COVID-19 as a marketing opportunity. And it's quite sad, because people were actually using the but so this is something for marketing practitioners and marketing academics to ponder on, about whether every opportunity or every event is it an opportunity to capitalize on, right? So something to think on, think about. So, however, there was some, we have learned a lot from the cases, and one of them was that going forward, it looks like, yes, it's not an what do you call it, an opportunity, but corporate social responsibility. What I noticed was that corporate social responsibility by companies and the publicity it generated was actually seen or looked upon positively by a number of consumers and the public, and even I would say even the government. Governments were noting which companies were doing up to and praising companies and businesses leaders who were seen as socially responsible. So this includes supporting sections of society which were adversely affected, means people who were lost their jobs, homeless people, refugees, and also companies supporting the frontliners and other charitable work. And I could see a lot of people looking positively on these companies. So I think a lot of companies noticed this and caught on to that. So the question is, are they sincere? So again, this question of, are companies simply being opportunistic? So going forward, I would say that corporate social responsibility is something that all companies have to practice. It's not a one-off thing, and it should come from the values, the corporate values, and should be part of the overall branding. Talking about CSR, some people might say, but then public relations is seen as part and parcel of marketing, as is advertising. Of course, I know that there are some practitioners who would disagree. They see advertising, marketing, and selling as completely different. And PR professionals would see PR as something which is quite different from marketing. However, in marketing theory, we look at PR as just one component of marketing, right? So going forward, the CSR slash public relations would be an important, I would say, practice. A lot of companies are doing it, but especially during this time, instead of advertising, being seen as socially responsible, actually, I could see that there was a lot of positive response from the public. So again, this is Amway at the top, donating 150 units of atmosphere air purifier to the Ministry of Health. This is COVID-19 with government hospitals. Again, it comes back. I am not sure. Are these air purifiers effective against COVID-19? That's not mentioned, but you know, that's what the implication is, right? So that air purifiers can kill COVID-19. That's what the message that they are trying to send. But I mean, it's positive. You know, what do you think? I would like to ask you know, the audience here. Do you think that these companies are honest, or they're simply being opportunistic? Anybody? Yes? Can I get some? What do you think? Like I mentioned before, in social media, it seems that a lot of people. I would question, you know, given that, you know, the air purifiers were mentioned that it was they are not effective. So is this really something that will really help in stopping the COVID-19? Yes? Any? So CNCS would say that it is false advertising. Joanne Tan has a different opinion. So it's a good opportunity for raising the brand profile. Like I said, there is no wrong or right answer. And I personally, I saw this as something positive. Yes, doing CSR is a good thing, and people see it positively. But are they being honest? You know, can it stop? That's not clear. You know, in any of the advertisements, I did a bit of research. Viruses, it's not clear.
Sorry,
it's just.
You may have to repeat because I think you froze again. You were saying you did a bit of research on. Sorry.
On the air purifiers. So I did a bit of research on air purifiers, and both COWE as well as MWE, and it is not clear whether they can kill viruses. So you know, it's sometimes mentioned 99%, but what about the 1%, right? So it's not clear. So this is a question mark there, but definitely I would say it's a positive step in the right direction. Okay, so this was the CSR, and going forward, I would think that, you know, instead of advertising misleading, you know, showing advertisements with misleading claims, doing something for the public, doing something charitable would be seen positively, right? And like I said, ending on a positive note, I would say there is a case where see something positive is the Outdoor Advertising Association of Malaysia campaign, Celebrating Heroes campaign. So 11 multinational corporation members of the OAAM, they actually pledged airtime worth about 1 million. And on close to 220 digital out-of-home screens around the country will be featuring these advertisements saluting the frontline heroes, you know. And they mentioned that the revenue generated from these ads will be donated to 2 organizations, namely Mercy Malaysia and the Islamic Medical Association of Malaysia. So again, this would be seen as advertising, but quite different here. They are not selling a product or a service, but rather as a social marketing, I would say social marketing campaign, saluting or you know, and saying thank you to the frontline staff, you know, to the. This was a very positive, I would say, a positive example of example of where it went right instead of going the other way. And another one was if you are interested in advertising, I would I would ask you to visit this website called AIDS of the World. So you can Google this up, called collections, and they have a collection of all the ads that has been produced around the world which are related to COVID-19. And going through them, if we ignore the original ones, original early ones, and I could see a lot of positive themes. So, and I just like to do a sort of quiz, without going through. I've shown you this. Here is a collection of a few. What themes do you think are the most popular? Around the world, do you think are the most popular? Yes. Just go through the ads. I've given some examples here. Just this is a screenshot from that website, Ads of the World. So which one do you think were popular? Anybody? So let's look at one here. So organic doggy treats. This is a pet, related to pet food. Those related to health and virus, yes, but more specifically, if you see, you have solidarity with medical frontliners genuinely. So yes, many of them were related to solidarity with frontliners. Another ones were talking about wearing masks. Some were talking about getting, about family. People were facing a lot of the ads were actually touching on that. Spending life with families, and others were more of social, I would say, social messages, like teaching people how to wear masks and why you should wear masks and why you should social distancing. So these were, yes, Joanne Tan there. Many of them were actually related to wearing the face mask and about social distancing. So this actually gives a good idea, because because these were the most popular ads around the world. So when we say popular, because that means that most people like these ads, and this kind of gives an idea of what are the ads that people appreciate. And these were not ads that were selling products, but these were ads that were giving a social message, and these companies, and we will remember these companies once this pandemic ends, and it will end, I'm sure. We will remember this marketing. Originally, we have moved away from the era of selling, where as long as you are a good seller and as long as you can promise the customers everything or anything, that's good enough. We have moved away from that. We are talking about sustainable marketing now, and where people are looking at the companies and thinking of forming long-term relationships with them. And when we look at companies, we are still attracted to promotions, but that's very short term. So if we are looking at long term, we would definitely be looking at those companies which we feel, which we can kind of relate to, which we feel are socially responsible, and moving forward. And these are the companies which will be sustainable, and a lot of research actually has shown that, especially the younger generations, the millennials, the G Gen, they are increasingly shopping. They are not falling for companies, which are opportunistic. Yes, it might work for short term, but in the long term, will these companies be successful? And that's a question that we would have to ponder. Those, all of you who are working in the corporate sector, this is something for you to think about. All right, and this is another one, and another example. And this was it's called the Malaysian Health Coalition, and this is a non-political coalition of what do you call it, professional associations and NGOs, as well as private citizens. They came together to spread the message, especially from the Ministry of Health. So I was contacted by one of the organizers, and asked to, share their messages on my social media. So I shared a lot of their messages on my Twitter page, and this is one of them. This is an example, and this is about Kita Jaga Kita, messages from doctors and MHC, which stands for the Malaysian Health Coalition. And I feel that, this is something that is very positive, and a lot of people don't realize when we talk about marketing, and this actually comes under marketing, an area of marketing which we hardly discuss, which is called social marketing. So I know that, people think about when you say marketing, the first thing that comes to mind is about selling products or services. But there is another area of marketing which is called social marketing, and quite different from social media marketing. Of course, even though we use a lot of social media in that, social marketing refers to using marketing concepts and techniques to actually sell ideas, to bring about positive change in society. And so this can be seen as one of those examples. And this is an area of interest to me, and that is how we can use marketing to actually change the behavior of people. It's not a new area, but in Malaysia and the other developing countries, I think that organizations are slowly and steadily, and even policymakers are realizing that. I don't want to comment about the current government, but one thing I think that they have done really well is actually communicate, and they have been really been successful in communicating in time. Accurate information. Of course, though not everything is perfect, but they have been very good in communicating, every day, in fact, to the public, and that is one thing they have got right. Going forward, I hope they would do that with other things as well, not just with COVID-19, but with other things as well. And that improves the transparency. And you can see that a lot of people, though initially they were not happy with the government, they kind of think that this current government do you have any messages, any questions? Please let me know. And yeah, and that's it. I finished quite early. So yes, any questions, anything, so we can open it up to the floor.
All right, thanks, Dilip. Thank you very much. The floor is open for questions from anyone. You feel free to type your question into the chat pane. You may also come onto the mic and or video to ask a question if you wish. In the meantime, thank you for joining us on this very rainy evening, and thank you also for bearing with bandwidth limitations.
I apologize for that. So yeah, it usually happens during the evenings. I think when people get onto the social media after work.
Yes.
Any questions? Anything anything you want to share? And like
oh, Dilip, you froze again.
So this is something that I would, I'm really interested in and doing research on. So I would really appreciate your ideas. Yeah. So I have a question from our Adisi Ayodo. How would these strategies apply to small businesses or a business starting during the pandemic? What advice would you have for marketing in this situation? As I mentioned before, there are a few lessons to be learned. If we don't look at the negative side of it, I would say one thing positive is that digital marketing is working. So a lot of people are going onto social media. People have no choice. A lot of people are watching TV. They are on social media. So as you know that e-commerce has boomed during this period. So that is definitely an opportunity, right? So there's something that we can look at. Of course, even though you might be small, you can still be seen as socially responsible. We don't want to be seen as somebody who's trying to cheat consumers, and if you want to be, in the long run, if you want to be surviving in the long run, I think that's the way forward. You have to be honest. Don't be seen as using misleading claims, right? So that is something that I would recommend for small businesses. All right, so we have Michael Parley, and how do market research for SMEs on the current condition of how to do market research for SMEs. There are many ways. I would say, as I'm a what do you call a marketer, so most of my research is actually related to consumer behavior. We can use surveys. But there's another way which a lot of people are not aware. It is free, and that is social media. And social media represents what do you call it? Some people see it's unethical to use the data.
Oh dear, Dilip, you froze.
Sorry.
Can you repeat? Some people see it as unethical to.
To use social media data. And of course, I always recommend you to ask for permission whenever you are using social media. But there are tools out there where you can actually scrap. We call it scrap. We can actually collect data in Twitter, on Facebook, to see the trends. What are people talking about? Like I said, these are the main ideas that I've got here are actually from social media. I have actually kind of looked at big data, and I've tried to see what are people talking about. And the main themes that came about were those, the one was hypocritical, another one was the misleading ads, and of course there are some positive as well, and of course inappropriate advertisements, right? So I collected those data from social media using data is out there for we can use it, and it's not that difficult. So Chandra Vandana says, I just see a book about 100 new normal, and one of them, digital working, is working. My reason is because people not going anywhere. And do you have any other reason? All right, so I don't really get what you're trying, but if I understand correctly, so you are saying that digital marketing is working, and it's working simply because people are not going outside. So it's no point if last time when people were not moving around to have billboards, or cinemas, right, where a lot of the advertising used to go to. The television, a lot of people are, especially in the US, I read that the TV viewership actually rose. Definitely social media usage did rise. A lot of people were going into Netflix, so a lot of new subscribers. But as the lockdowns kind of end, I think other media will also slowly pick up, right? The next revolution for social media to digitalization and even artificial intelligence. Yes, that will be the way going forward. And like I mentioned, when I use this, there are scrappers out there, and they are using artificial intelligence to scrap. So you can literally within minutes, you can actually collect information from, let's say, about 10,000 Twitter accounts. Just you want to find out what people are talking about, let's say a certain brand. So if let's say you have a company and you want to find out what people are talking about with regards to your company, you can use these tools, these data scrappers, to find out what people are talking about you on internet. Let's say if you have a hotel, you can look on TripAdvisor. Of course, that's very easy, right? But yeah, Bernard. So any other question?
Or have to repeat the last sentence. So sorry.
Oh, okay. So no, I was highlighting that artificial intelligence will definitely play a big role. A lot of the tools out there are using artificial intelligence to for example, to one of the data scrappers. I won't mention the name here. They actually used this artificial intelligence to find themes. Of course, based on you have to guide it, but you can actually find the themes within the conversations that are happening on social media. Yes.
All right, we do have time for more questions. Yes, there is one more question, Dilip, from Sarabjit.
Yes, what do you think of use of celebrity in ads? I I'm a big supporter. I am actually like actually did my PhD. I did my PhD on blogs. Okay, so advertising on blogs, and one of the things that I looked at was this what we call as social media influencers now. So these social media influencers are really, really important. They are we can consider them as celebrities, you know. So there are different levels of social media influencers. So we have got this mega, and then we have got micro. So there are the terminologies are coming. So there's no set terminology as yet. But yesterday I was listening to one of the webinars in BFM, and they're talking about micro influencers. So people on, for example, on Instagram with less than 50,000 followers. So they are considered, micro influencers. And these people are really, really important. And why they are important is because when you put an ad up, let's say on traditional media, simply just ignore the ads. But when it comes from a social media influencer, people who are your peers, you know, people who like you and me, we tend to, pay more attention automatically. So we are not there yet. You know, maybe it might change in the future, but right now, people, especially if you have like, let's say, you know, Instagrammer with 1 million or let's say 500,000 followers, they are really, really important. People latch on to, you know, they are watching their feeds literally every day. The minute they wake up, before they sleep, they're going through their Instagram feeds, the Instagram stories on Twitter. So these people are really, really influencer. You know, consumers don't realize it. But you know, if we look at the, I didn't want to touch on theories, but what we have is that we call it the, we call it the sales funnel or the AIDA model, where A is attention. So, you know, to create attention, for example, if you're launching, yesterday there was this very interesting talk, and as I mentioned, which made me think. And one of the recommendation was that it may be actually useful to use these social media influencers rather than going to the famous celebrities. So famous celebrities might take, you know, sometimes up to 1 million or 500,000 just to get, you know, one Instagram post. Whereas, you know, with the same amount of money, you can actually reach a much wider audience using the micro influencers, right? I would not see, you know, it would go hand in hand with CSR. Yes, you still have to do CSR. I think CSR is something that, is something that must be part and parcel of a company. It should be part of the brand values. You know, it's you don't just do it because, you know, and people know when you do it because you wanted to, you know, like for example, you know, 5 CEOs, the CEO and those are, you know, those photo shoots are very, very cringe-worthy, I would say, you know. So I hate those kind of photographs. But you know, if you like, if you are, you know, I think this is something that to be discussed. I don't want to, further research can be done on what type of contents can be are seen positively, but definitely CSR would go hand in hand with endorsement, brand endorsement. Brand endorsement does work. So we have Joanne Tan again asking, do you think that working with KOL YouTube influencers will be the new trend? Yes, definitely. I think this will, when I did my PhD, that was way back in 2006. I completed my PhD in 2011. And by the time I, ended, blogs were not hot anymore. So when I started my PhD, it was considered groundbreaking. At the time, we had these bloggers, you know, we had this, we call it, pay these bloggers to review their products. and that was seen as something groundbreaking at the time. And a lot of these companies were initially very skeptical, but they realized that it really works. Sometimes even better than traditional media. Instead of spending few million on TV or newspapers, the same amount on using influencers can actually carry more weight, right? So, but the research. I mean, there is no definite answer yet, because the research are still going on, trying to find whether this the social media influencers work or not. But I personally think they will, moving forward, they will be part and parcel of the advertising industry. So yeah, and I'd like to warn you, do not use social media as a place to sell. It is a place to communicate. I once went to for a consultation, and the one of the guys, the managers, asked me, they were very unhappy, because some of their customers left a bad review about them on social media, and I was asking me whether there is a way to remove these bad reviews. Unfortunately, that it was on a independent, I think, review site, and it was being shared on social media. So they were not happy about it. I asked them to look at it differently. Instead of looking at the negative reviews, and these are actually feedback from real customers. So if you were to hire let's say a consultant like me, I'm going to charge you a fair bit of amount, but you've got customers telling you for free. So if that was actually a hotel, and they were unhappy with the service in the hotel, and I told them, you are rich, right? You can actually ask them, we are very sorry, we apologize. Well, we would like to invite you back for one day free, complimentary on the hotel, and I'm sure that if you got everything right, they would leave a positive comment, right? So that is something that SMEs can do. Instead of seeing social media or reviews as negative, you can actually use that for something positive, right? Joint tense, you may not relate it, but you see e-commerce platforms, e-marketplace like Shopee, Lazada. Yes, and it is related. I don't know whether you recall, the hand sanitizer. It's from Shopee. They are really, really taking off. And you see, like, whenever I'm on social media, you will have this sponsored post either from Shopee or from Lazada, and they know my shopping patterns because I'm logged in. So they know that I've shopped for shoes, for example, or I've looked at hi-fi, and they will give you all the offers related to the search you have made, and that will be, they are actually, I won't say they are bombing, they are actually doing really well. And the thing is that I'm really excited going forward how they're going to evolve. One thing I see is gamification. They are using live, they've become more like rather than just a e-commerce site or aesthetic. They are becoming interactive shopping sites whereby you play games. Selling live, offering, doing the shows, they have now Korean pop stars, promoting products, live shows. So I'm really excited moving forward how it's going to evolve. Anything else? A lot of interesting questions, and it gives me a lot of ideas. It's really, that's why I wanted to spend more time, having a Q&A and more interaction rather than me just talking. If there was face to face, we would do some activities, but unfortunately, so we're in a webinar, so we can. It's quite limiting, but yeah, we are having a lot of interaction here, which is quite good.
It'd be awesome to do a face-to-face session once the pandemic is over.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions?
Any more questions or any more thoughts? It can be, what do you think? You don't have to agree with me. Like I said, this is a preliminary. which has not been validated yet. It was based on scrapping the social media, and I've not used any statistical software, very, very qualitative in nature. You may disagree, and you can actually, if you have something you want to share, please feel free. Yes. Oh yeah, and replying again to Michael Parley, like I mentioned to you the example of the social marketing, where we had this Malaysian Health Coalition that was totally free. You see, we are all volunteers. I didn't charge a single cent to actually carry and this is part of what we call I didn't want to bring again theory, but again I'm going to bring in theory. That is what we call as word of mouth, electronic word of mouth. So electronic word of mouth is like, last time in normal, if you have something positive to say, you will have one person telling 10 people. And then if you have something negative, I've got on my Twitter account, I've got about 9,000. So if I post something, I expect at least 10% to see. That's quite a lot of people who on my Twitter page, right? On my Facebook page, I've got a few thousand. So, and that's totally free. And you see a lot of it, if people like your products, if people feel engaged with your brand, they will share your advertisements for free. So is it possible to do gut marketing when you have zero budget? Zero budget, not really. You need to spend a bit. Even Nottingham, with our business school, we have experimented with Facebook ads. We did have to spend a bit. Okay, we did have, yeah. Anita, want to add some more something?
Dilip, if you don't mind, I don't mean to butt in,
Yeah.
but as a colleague to Dilip, and we both teach in the similar area, I just wanted to highlight that, I am seeing a lot of, societal groups, like women's entrepreneurs. There is one Ammas for business, or, food industry, specifically, home entrepreneurs. And they are using Twitter a lot and Instagram to kind of advertise their products. And I think that's interesting. Of course, it's not zero budget. I suppose they have to spend a little bit of money in kind of, storyboarding what they want to put up on Instagram. So, particularly the recipe or the menu or the looks, but I think it can be done fairly in a cheap manner.
Yep.
Dilip is doing quite well on Twitter. But Twitter and Instagram are very valid platforms nowadays, where people prefer to see images, and then because of the algorithms involved, it gets picked up by people interested in those product categories. Yeah. So basically, you get a quick direct line to your target market very quickly.
Yeah. Adding to Anita, I will also add, of course, we have to remember who's your target market. So, you have to see who are the segments which are on this specific accounts or in this using this social media. But if you are targeting the X-Gen, the millennials, definitely social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, more recently, TikTok, right? Those are the platforms you should target. And in my class, I always ask, most of my students are the Gen Z, they are not even millennials, now they are the Z generation. So I ask them, I do this every year. I ask them, how many of you watched television last night? I would not get a single, this year I didn't get even a single person watch TV, they don't watch TV at all. So sometimes I ask the question, I would like to question advertisers, and businesses, if you're targeting the Z TV advertisements, maybe that's not the area, that's not the right platform, right? And you're spending on newspapers, for example. How many of the millennials and the Z Gen actually read newspaper? I asked in my class, I think I remember, out of 100, maybe 1% read the newspaper. That's it. So, this is something that we have to consider. And in fact, but you know, like I said, you know, we still want to stick to the old traditional you know, media, but this is something we have to seriously consider. But yes, if you're targeting, let's say, the boomers, you know, the Z, our generation, the X gen, we watch TV, you know, we listen to radio. So maybe, yeah, we still read newspapers. Yes, so probably yes, you still continue using those you know, those what do you call it, platforms.